What's happening YouTube? My name is Alex and welcome to a new review. For today I have a phone that's a few months old but it still offers a lot of value for its price. So this one is called the Vernee Thor, and what's different about this phone is the fact that it has a 5-inch screen. So that's something that we don't really see anymore these days. So the phone has a MediaTek 6753 CPU. This is an Octa core CPU. We also have 3 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of internal storage, and the phone is running Android 6.0.1. Size-wise, this is among the smallest phones that I've seen in the past few months, and that's something that we don't really see anymore, and you can actually fit this in your pocket very easily, so definitely a smaller phone than usual. As for the build quality, the phone reminds me a lot of a Nexus 5, so we have the same rubberized finish as a Nexus 5, and even though the phone is made out of plastic, it doesn't actually feel cheap. On the back of the phone we have a 13 megapixel camera, we have the flash, the fingerprint scanner, and all the way at the bottom the speaker. Now the fingerprint scanner, it's accurate, I would say 9 out of 10 times, but it is a bit slow to actually unlock the phone, so it's not the fastest phone out there for unlocking the screen. As for the speaker, it does seem to get quite loud but a bit distorted at the maximum volume, and keep in mind it's on the back of the phone, so it's not exactly pointed at you. The plastic back is also removable, and underneath we are gonna find 2 slots for 2 SIM cards and a slot for an SD card. And since we are talking about SD cards, you can easily install an SD card as internal storage because we have Android 6.0.1 running on this device. As for the internal storage, we have about 11 gigs left out of that 16 that comes with the phone, and the speeds that I got for the internal storage are very good. The 2800 mAh battery that's behind the plastic cover, it's non-removable. However, the battery life on this phone, it's really good. So I was able to get about 24 hours of usage on this phone and about 6 hours of screen on time, and I can probably get it to like 7 hours. So the battery life on this device, it's really good. And on top of the great battery life, the phone will charge from 0 to 100 in about 2 hours and 20 minutes, so quite fast. The phone's frame is also made out of the same rubberized plastic as the back. On the right hand side you're gonna find the power button and the volume keys, and these ones are also made out of plastic, and on top you're gonna find the 3.5mm audio jack. The sound coming out of the 3.5mm audio jack, it's better than most cheaper Chinese devices, so on par with much more expensive devices, and that was quite unexpected. And lastly, all the way at the bottom we have a micro USB charging port and a microphone. This phone also supports OTG, so you can plug in any USB stick and the phone will be able to read whatever you have on that USB stick. On the front of the phone, starting at the top, we have a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, the speaker, and a couple of sensors. Unfortunately, this phone doesn't have an LED notification light. As for the picture quality from that 5 megapixel camera, well, if you have enough light, the pictures do turn out okay, but if you don't have enough light, you can barely see what's in the pictures, and of course the pictures that you've just seen or taken with this device. The 5-inch screen used for this device has a resolution of 720p, but considering that the screen is quite small, 720p it's not too bad. The viewing angles are really good, so you can see the screen from any angle, and the colors are nice and vibrant. The screen gets quite bright as well, so you can see it outside. However, there is a lot of reflection and glare happening whenever you have the phone outside, so it may be a bit difficult to actually see it depending where you are. The screen is also covered by some type of scratch resistant glass. They say it's Gorilla Glass 3, but there is no way for me to actually verify that, but I can confirm that the screen will not yet scratched. However, there is a downside to the screen, so even though you can touch the screen in 5 places in the same time and the screen will register, I haven't found that this screen has the best sensitivity, so whenever I'm typing I always have to type the same letter a couple of times because the screen doesn't seem to register every single touch, so I have to say that is a bit annoying. And lastly, all the way at the bottom of the screen we have 3 buttons. One of them it's the home button, one of them it's the menu button, and the return button. Unfortunately, the menu button doesn't act as a multitasking button, so every time you want to go into multitasking you actually have to hold the home button, and yeah, there is no way of actually changing that in the settings. Performance wise, even though we have an octa core CPU, so that MediaTek 6753 it's an octa core CPU, we don't have the highest scores on the Antutu benchmark and the Geekbench 4. But even with those scores, every single app that you're gonna try on this phone is gonna work great. So for example, Chrome, zooming in, zooming out, scrolling up, scrolling down, works like on any other device. If you're planning to use the YouTube app, the maximum resolution is gonna be 720p, but all the videos seem to go very smooth. As for gaming, I was able to play GTA San Andreas at the maximum settings, and as you can probably tell for yourself, the game does seem to go extremely well without any issues, so I don't really see any games available in the Google Play Store that aren't gonna work on this phone. The GPS unit inside it works great, so it only takes a few seconds for the phone to actually connect to the satellites, and using any navigation app also works really good. So for example, I use Google Maps and I haven't had any issues. For sensors, unfortunately we don't get that many sensors, but the ones that we do have seem to work okay. This phone also supports 4G connectivity, and the phone was actually connected to the 4G network the entire time that I used it. The speeds that I got over 4G are great, but unfortunately the phone doesn't support dual band Wi-Fi, so you're only gonna be able to connect to the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi bands. The speeds that I got over Wi-Fi are just average and nothing special. Moving to the back of the phone once again, so we have a 13 megapixel camera on the back of the phone, but unfortunately, like most cheaper Chinese devices, the camera it's not the best. The camera app looks the same with the camera app that we've seen on many Chinese devices with MediaTek CPUs, so we don't really have that many options or settings, and the camera app it's quite slow, mostly whenever you're taking HDR pictures, so be prepared to actually hold your hand steady whenever you're taking HDR pictures. As for picture quality, whenever you're taking pictures and you have plenty of light, the pictures do turn out great. I mean, I have no issues with the daytime pictures. However, if you take pictures at nighttime, you can't really see anything in the picture. So you're better off not to take any pictures in low light conditions. And the pictures that you've just seen or taken with this device. We also have Android 6.0.1 running on this device, and that looks very close to stock Android. So if you look at this phone or an older Nexus device, they do look very similar. That being said, opening apps, scrolling in between screens, multitasking, basically everything that you do with this phone, it's done very quickly. So that's a very good thing. The settings app also looks just like stock Android, but that's a good and bad thing in the same time, because this way you don't really get any features at all. So you don't really have features like the double tap to wake up or basically any other features. So it's very plain. And it's time to conclude this video. So if you're looking for a cheap phone that has a 5-inch screen, this is something that you should consider. The only thing I didn't like about this phone was the screen sensitivity, so maybe that's just me because I'm coming from high-end devices. And the second thing I didn't like were the pictures in low light conditions. But other than that, everything seems to work extremely good. And I was very happy to see the battery life, because you can easily get 2 days of usage with this device. So something that we don't really see that much these days. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, don't forget to press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.